Hello everyone, I'm Drachona. Before I get to the actual thought that I have written down, I want to do two things. First, I want to announce that I will be at VidCon again this year for all two people who care. Hopefully I don't accidentally contribute to a controversy again. I'll probably just generally refrain from asking questions. Second, related to this video, I want to establish a very important distinction between oppression and suppression. To suppress someone is to restrict them in certain ways. On a societal level, this means that they're still treated as a participating member of society, but they're limited to certain approved roles. On an individual level, this could be as simple as a religious parent not allowing their child to be atheistic or dissuading them from being creative in a certain way. Basically, suppression often comes from concern for someone and their position in society. That doesn't make it right, but the person or system that suppresses wants to keep people in line for their own good as well as for the good of society. Oppression, on the other hand, is far more authoritarian and selfish. To oppress someone is to put them in a position where they must do what you say and they have no choice in the matter. Their options are submit or attempt to run away, which will often lead to them being killed. Slavery is a good example of actual oppression. A slave has no rights. They must do what they're told or they will be punished severely, and insubordination could result in death. A less severe example of oppression would be a serfdom, where the serfs are bound to their monarch. If the monarch is particularly cruel, the serfs have no real choice in the matter. They either participate or leave, which could have deadly consequences either from the monarch or simply from roaming the land without protection of a ruler. A serf cannot transcend their position. They can't make suggestions to the ruler, nor do they have the right to do something like protest the way the monarchy is run. The distinction is simple. There is a safe way out of suppression. There is no safe way out of oppression. A woman, for example, may be discouraged from being a landowner, but that didn't stop some women from being landowners, or far more than that. A slave, however, can't strike out on their own. They can't choose to reject societal norms or prove themselves to be just as skilled as their counterparts. They're slaves. A single foot out of line could get them whipped, and an escape attempt could get them killed. So, now that we've made that distinction, let's get on to the thought that I have written down. Throughout history, women were not oppressed, they were suppressed. They were forced by cultural and societal expectations to remain in certain areas and do certain things. This is ultimately because of one simple fact. Women can give birth. Women are biologically designed to carry, give birth to, and nurture children at least until they become relatively independent. Men have no necessary part in this process outside of insemination. That's not to say that being a father is unimportant, but from a purely biological standpoint, men are biologically designed to impregnate women. Some people look at the fact that women were kept at home, and men had all the power and money, and assume that this meant that men were valued most in society. This is not the case. Men were seen as utilities, machines, which maintained the physical structure of society, while women took care of the next generation. Women have almost universally been the focus of societies all over the world because they have the most important role, giving birth to the next generation and therefore ensuring the survival of the species. Men, as long as they already had children, were essentially expendable. You could throw a bunch of men into a coal mine to make sure that society stayed up and running. You could throw as many men as you need onto a battlefield as long as everyone back home was protected. This isn't to say that society has it out for men, but it's a biological fact that men are more available to protect and support the family while a certain number of women need to give birth in order for the species to survive. If our species had evolved the other way around, then women would have been the hunters and men would have been the caregivers. It's that simple. The core of all differences in societal or cultural expectations and behavior between men and women is the fact that we have different, supplementary roles in procreation. It's not sexism or oppression. It's the result of biological facts. This is why, as survival becomes less and less of a concern in more modern societies, the expectations of men and women have become more lax. Arguably, not a single woman could give birth, at least for a period of time, and there would be very little impact on society and especially the population. However, while gender roles can be more relaxed nowadays, we can only stray so far from the undeniable fact that children must be born in order for the species to persist, and this cannot happen without the participation of both males and females. even in the form of artificial insemination or artificial reproduction. As long as we are mortal beings who naturally reproduce, there will be different supplementary roles for men and women determined by biology. And just to be clear, just because something is biologically determined, that doesn't mean that we can't choose to go against it. We can choose to reject the biological reality, but it is still the biological reality. The same way we can choose to commit suicide, but we can't deny that we are biologically driven to survive. It's not inescapable, but it is fact. Anyway, that's it for this video. I've got a few more in the queue, and I will be working on those and finishing those just as soon as I can. In the meantime, I'm Drachona, and have a nice day. Throughout history... shit. I feel like I'm gonna burp. God, it's there. It's like I can feel it. I hate that. It's like bubbling up, and I just know I'm gonna start talking, and then I'm gonna have to burp, and it's gonna interrupt me. I'm gonna try to force it out. Use the force, Luke. Oof, that's better. Wait.